Antiseptic as well?
Yeah. There's one here, a bit loaded now. You can cook these like beans in the hot ash of the fire. You eat these little seeds. Yeah. So this is my supermarket and my pharmacy, all wrapped up in one here, right?
While they still maintain some of the traditions of their hunter-gatherer past, most Aboriginals were forced or encouraged to live in permanent settlements decades ago. We travelled to Tijikala, a community of about 200 people just south of the Tropic of Capricorn. On the outskirts of town, we spotted someone who'd been a bit quicker than Vince at catching a bush tucker meal.
Where did you get it?
Not far from the home. Took off to climb up the tree.
So you had to climb up the tree after him? Or you waited?
I was stoned him, with the axe.
And this was today or yesterday? Or?
Today.
Today. So it's a fresh kill, some fresh lizard, ready to be cooked just over here. You'll cook it on the coals after putting the sand on the top of it.
Ever since white settlers arrived in Australia more than 200 years ago, the indigenous people have been marginalised. Alcoholism, poverty, violence and poor healthcare means the life expectancy of Aboriginal people is now nearly 20 years less than white Australians. But I've arrived in the Northern Territory during a critical period in Aboriginal history. A recent government report has revealed that some Aboriginal settlements were rife with child abuse and suffering. A national emergency has been declared, and a powerful army-backed task force has descended on Aboriginal communities. So I've come here in the middle of a dust storm to meet the head of the task force, Major General Dave Chalmers.
This intervention is as a result of a study that was done into child abuse in remote communities. The intervention is primarily designed to protect children. There are many measures that we have to take, and these are measures to increase the level of policing in communities, to reduce the amount of alcohol that's coming into communities, to break the cycle of violence in communities.
The report said alcohol abuse was fueling widespread violence. So the task force is entering Aboriginal communities to restore law and order.
Government has tried many programs in the past to address some of these issues. I think the difference now is that for the first time, mainstream Australia has really understood that we have people living in third world conditions of poverty in Australia.
Can you understand why remote communities like this might feel a little bit intimidated, given the history of white and Aboriginal relationships, when you turn up in your combat fatigues? Can you understand how that's intimidating for them?
Sure, but I find that I'm not a scary guy, and most people, when I talk to them, well, then we get past that and get over that. I'd say, for example...
There's just shelter here, I think, between the cars, because the dust is going to start to get out of control. What do you say?
If you look about, you'll see that there are government officials from Department of Employment Workplace Relations, from Centrelink, our welfare organisation, from the Department of Education. So there's no army invasion.
After decades when the authorities left Aboriginal communities to run their own affairs, the government has now retaken command of dozens of settlements across the Northern Territory. Alcohol and pornography have been banned. The task force is even taking control of how Aboriginal people spend their benefit money. Some settlements have welcomed promises of improved healthcare and new police patrols. And there's no question that domestic violence has plagued many Aboriginal communities. To get to one of the communities at the very centre of the controversy, I headed south of Capricorn, towards one of the most important Indigenous sites in the country. Uluru, also known as Ayers Rock.
Wow.
yeah. What a sight.
It's just a wow sight, isn't it?
It is this country's most famous natural icon, an image used to promote Australia around the world. Yet just a few hundred metres from the rock is Mutijulu, an Aboriginal community in the national spotlight for violence and abuse. It's Vince's hometown.
Again, my community which I belong to, just Mutijulu, just there. It's a third, or even if you could call it a fourth world community in this rich country. Them things didn't happen overnight. It took decades to create the poverty.
What about the problems of sexual abuse?
At the present time, we are being demonised in our own land, eh? Being demonised. Not every man bashes his wife. Not every man is a drunk. Not every man is a pedophile. They're saying that that's what we do in our culture. That's rubbish, that's lie, that's demonising, that's racism at its best.
Vince believes the problems in Aboriginal communities are caused by the appalling conditions people are living in.
If the Australian knew the truth, they'd be shocked. Hang on a minute. The conditions of the community, that's neglect from the government, so they're blaming the victim.
Vince invited me into Mutijulu, a community normally closed by law to outsiders. The people here own Uluru and receive a rent for its inclusion in a national park. But within sight of the Great Rock, the poverty and squalor was shocking. Alleged child abuse in Mutijulu was said to be one of the main reasons for the formation of the task force. Yet in the months since officials first appeared here, no one's been charged with sexual abuse. One of the most striking things about Mutijulu is the rubbish. The situation here is desperate, but I was puzzled why people haven't done more to improve conditions for themselves. It's as though the decades of deprivation have sent many Aboriginal people into a spiral of self-destruction.
The conditions are bloody shocking. You know, any person can see that. But this hasn't happened overnight. We've got to understand that.
It still seems hard to understand why this community is in the state it is.
Well, oppression, all that sort of thing there, and you know, I mean, and overcrowding of housing and all this type of thing there. You know, you see these houses, you've got 20 people in one house.
20 people?
In one house, yeah, you'll see them. So you can see.
I'd love to know what you feel, Vince. I mean, you've travelled.
My country has just been, look at the bloody rubbish. It'll take nothing to clean this up. Now, since the invasion has happened, what's going on? Of course, people are dropping the bundle and all that type of thing, you know.
Drop the bundle? What, they've sort of lost?
Hope.
They've lost some civic respect.
Yeah.
The task force says it wants to help communities and improve conditions and services. But the problems affecting Aboriginal settlements have deep, dark roots. That evening, the mood on the other side of the rock couldn't be more of a contrast. Each year, up to 500,000 tourists come to see Uluru. Hundreds of millions of years old, it is one of the most impressive natural sights on the planet.
Well, there's coaches pulling in here all the time, loaded, frankly, with wealthy tourists who are here, obviously, to see this incredible sight. You can hardly begrudge people the experience of a lifetime coming to Uluru, can you? But it does feel quite weird to have come straight out of the community, which is, what, 10 minutes away down the road? And with the conditions you've got there, and then to see people having this much fun, it does jar.
It was time to move on, leaving the Northern Territory and following the tropic east to the Sunshine State. Queensland is famous for its rainforests and tropical coastline. But I was travelling through its parched interior. The town of Longreach sits right on the Tropic of Capricorn. And there's even a monument to mark it.
Well, it's not particularly big, but there you go. Tropic of Capricorn, line running across here, temperate zone here, a little bit chilly. On this side, the torrid zone, scorching. This is the planet turned on its side. This is north, this is south.